internet.
Monthly board meeting, and we'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. All stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do a roll call. Commissioner Felkar, present. Commissioner Swenson, present. Commissioner Trapila, here. Commissioner Talbot's, aye. Commissioner Hummel is missing; she's on excused absence. And Commissioner Robinson here. Commissioner Moran is here. We'll get right to the agenda. We have a busy board meeting and work session today, and so we're going to try to keep things moving along as best we can. Just like to remind those that would like to address the board, you're certainly welcome. If you have any comments, please come to the stand up in front, introduce yourself, and we'll certainly recognize you and listen to whatever you have to present. We'll go into the consent agenda. The consent agenda is made up of routine day-to-day items that require board action but do not appear to have significant public impact. Items may be pulled from the consent agenda for separate discussion vote by any board member. First item is approval of the board meeting minutes from June 26, 2012. Second item is payroll checks totaling $71,846.82 in June. And since we didn't meet in July, we have $75,803.98 for July. Maintenance and operation checks for June and July totaling $743,989.97, and a passenger facility charge for June of $80,000 and July of $66,000, and also included in the packets were the financial reports for June and July. Is there a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda passes. Director, we've got the capital funding plan. I know there's been a couple of changes to that. Do you want to address that at this time? Or?
I think we'll probably pick it up in the next month. What we're doing right now is we're beginning to look at 2013 and making some modifications to the next year's program. And then we're also looking ahead and doing our annual reshuffling in conjunction with FAA's forecast of what dollars will be available in the next few years. We've got that major renovation coming up on 1634, and so we're working with FAA on the likely timing of those dollars. That'll be our next major capital improvement. So we expect probably at the September meeting or the October meeting, we will have reshuffled the capital plan and we'll bring it back with our contributions plan and those types of things to look at once again.
Okay. All right, very good, thank you. So the first official item on the agenda is the 2013 RSIP program. Oh, you want to cover that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry, I thought you were done there.
No, on the director's report, we've got a number of things to talk about real quick. First is Maria Curley has joined us. You may recall at the last meeting 2 months ago, we mentioned that Sharon was retiring and Maria was going to be coming on board, and she's been here now for just about 2 months and doing a great job for us in filling Sharon's very large shoes. And so I'd like to introduce Maria Curley. If you haven't had a chance to meet her yet, of course this is the board, but we hope to see her in that seat for many months to come. So Maria, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to share with the board, just any comment or anything? Put you on the spot.
It's nice to meet you all.
Maria's experience, she comes most recently with McCarran Airport in Las Vegas, but then prior to that she was with Portland Jetport, which is the main version of Portland up there for a number of years. So she's got quite a bit of airport experience behind her.
Well, it's nice to have you with us today.
Thanks, Jim.
The other things I was going to cover, July was a record month. You may have seen the article in the paper. We put 19,600 folks on airplanes boarding-wise, which was a nice improvement over last year, and the most passengers we'd ever seen in a month, both on and off airplanes. August so far looks very strong. We're anxious to see the numbers. So far through the July numbers, we're still the fastest growing airport in the state. We've held that role now for about 2 years. When you look over the last 2 years, the growth we've had, so that's certainly favorable for us. I know there's been a lot of interest in Frontier. So far, Frontier's done excellent. We haven't seen the financial reports for June, May. They lost a little bit of money, but we anticipate over June and July that those operations were profitable. They had the highest load factors of any of our airlines in June and July. So we think that's gone really well. We're starting to see traffic really tailing off in August and September. So I'm anxious to the back end of August, September. So I'm anxious to see the numbers as we get through August here and see how the last couple of weeks have gone. Certainly the planes aren't as full as they were a month ago. But they currently their plans are our airplane will be reassigned to Palm Springs here in about a month and a half. They'll be, or about a month now. Their last flights will be at the end of September. So they'll be leaving, that plane will be leaving us and going over to Palm Springs. They did extend a couple of their summer markets. Their biggest concern with us right now is the advanced bookings. The September numbers are not terrific. And so in talking to them, a couple like Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, for example, they've sold out all their flights that they had through the summer about a month ago. And so they did extend those flights and are continuing to fly out of there. The prognosis going forward, we think that it's likely that they'll get rid of their 99-seat airplanes this winter, probably at the end of that Palm Springs service as we get into spring. There's a couple of rumors out there of who might acquire them, but their goal is to be an all-Airbus airline eventually, probably even next summer. So as we get into the 2013 campaign, we haven't met with the investors yet or really had any discussion of whether or not we would be interested in trying to bring them back for next year. I think it's evident the contribution they've made, the tourism influence that we've seen this summer on the economy, in my estimation, has been fantastic. We just have seen people from all over the Midwest, those markets we targeted, and that we knew the Frontier flights would bring in. We've seen people from Kansas City, Ohio, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, just in floods. And there for a few weeks, it was fun to watch the crowd come off of the plane, and then a few minutes later appear out in the rental car lot, just taking everyone's cart down the line. So we think it's been a tremendous contribution to the local economy. We've asked TDID for, that's the Transportation Business Improvement District, Tourism Business Improvement District, I never get that right, but the hoteliers, we've asked them for some comments on how their bookings have been for the summer. Can they tell us anything about out-of-town bookings? Is there more of an influence from the Midwest, which is what we would expect? And are they busier? We haven't been able to get anything out of them yet. We're going to actually present at the September TBID meeting. So we're hoping that we'll get some numbers from them to kind of help us to gauge the amount of increase. One thing I can tell you is our rental car companies are always sold out in the summer. Historically, Hertz and those guys are always sold out anyway. So they don't have a huge increase in traffic. But the guys, the newer guys, Dollar and Thrifty, Dollar was up 56% over last year, the numbers that Dollars had last year before they left. So that's a pretty good indication. The guys that had cars last summer and weren't able to rent them, this summer are completely out of cars. Everybody over there in the rental car business was complaining they didn't have any cars all summer. So the amount of business outbound from the airport, from the tourists that are coming in is, we think, a major increase thanks to, in large part, the Frontier. If we bring it back next year, it would likely be on an Airbus. So that'll be another challenge in itself because that's 40 more seats per flight. But I think it's, in my opinion, they could have easily flown every day this summer and upheld the schedule they had. So there is more traffic there. I think many people said that the problems they had this summer with Frontier were not wanting to fly on the days Frontier was flying. So I think there is another group that we could tap into if they had 6-day-a-week service, or a schedule that was more conducive to business. There is another iteration out there that we could get of new traffic to go through if they come back. So I think by the end of the summer they'll be leaving on a really positive note. I think the flights will be cash positive. I doubt we'll use much, if any, of the revenue guarantee. So I think all that funding pool will be intact, and I think the impact on the community has been terrific. So high hopes for next year. And we'll begin, we've already started talking to them a little bit about what a proposal for next year might look like. So probably in the next month or 45 days, we'll probably ask the investors to get together one more time and kind of share what we know about how things have gone, have another month of financial reports, and take things from there. So as it sits right now, they'll be gone at the end of September. The other things I was just going to mention, we have an RFQ going out, request for qualifications for a noise consultant to update our Part 150. We need to draw some new contours. That would include updating the fleet mix. You may remember when that was done years and years ago. There were 727s still in the market. There were, I think, even some DC products flying around. So now we've got a much newer fleet, and now change the contours a little bit. And then we want to run some scenarios for C-130s. Whether or not we'll see C-130s, it's still a little bit up in the air, but we want to have a scenario there so we understand what happens to the noise contours once that fleet changeover happens, if it does. And then we'll also be asking for quotes for terminal furniture. We'll go out and ask to acquire somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 seats for the terminal to replace the Allegiant seats, and then also for the new hold room next to Delta. What will happen mechanically is we'll probably replace Delta's seats and the whole room next to Delta that's being built, and then we'll move Delta seats down to Allegiant so that we have matching seats in that whole room there. We may buy a different style of seat than the wood ones we have out there today. Over time, we'd like to get to a consistent seating, but even 100 seats could easily run us $40,000 to $50,000. So it's 100 seating units, that is. But it's fairly expensive to buy, so we don't want to do it all at once. We just got those new United ones last year anyway. The other thing I was going to mention, and I'll leave this one up to comment for the board. As you know, Sharon's retired. She spent a little bit of time in Alaska the last month or so, and we'd like to get the board together with Sharon just to celebrate that change in her life. And just was curious if the board would be interested in a lunch or a dinner sometime over the next month with Sharon, just to get a chance to say farewell, and what the preference would be, lunch or dinner, and any thoughts you might have on that.
Dinner.
Evenings? Very much. I guess I didn't throw breakfast down.
For me, either one would be fine.
I'm pretty flexible. Just thinking in general availability, were you thinking like somewhere in 1 or 2 weeks of September maybe?
We can do that. Middle 2 weeks of September. I know you mentioned you were in town. That's I don't know, Steph, if we can maybe target that week after Laura gets back from
Yeah, that sounds
from the Great White North.
Is Sharon on board with this? Or is she already,
She is,
is she?
yeah.
And she's going to be.
Yes, she has moved on. That's what you're asking, but yeah.
And she'll be back.
She has all
But
the
I
time
mean,
with
no,
fun.
is she on board with the party? I mean, she, the little get-together last time, it's kind of, not about you, kind of Sharon,
Yeah, no, she's fine.
Okay.
All right, we'll target that week towards the middle of September. It sounds like evening is a preference.
Probably.
All right, we'll put something together around that. And then lastly, the other thing I'm just going to remind the board, Laura will be heading up to, we decided to staff it with just Laura. We were originally both going to go, but the Oil Sands Conference is coming up in September 10th, 11th, and 12th. And, that's it's up in Fort McMurray. And it's an opportunity trade show for the guys up there. We're somewhat interested in it because we think there's some opportunity for additional laydown space like the man camps that we just signed the lease for. That revenue stream is now flowing in. That's about $40,000 a year. If you look at that truck stop over there, there's a lot of other goods that go through here, Komatsu's, other things. And we think given our location on the rail, close enough to the rail and on the highway, there's an opportunity for more of that type of temporary use. So we want to get to know the trucking companies a little bit and some of the manufacturers that are supplying that stuff. EBC is or GFIAA is also planning to go up there too, because I know the man camp guys, they're producing as much as they can out of the current production line. There's got to be some other producers too that this is stretching their ability to build, and they may need another distribution location. If that truly is a 20-year site, and Minot's a 20-year site, and there's some exploration up in Browning, maybe that is a line of business that this community could see more benefit out of. So we want to get to know some of those folks, make some contacts, maybe send some cold letters and with some names, and just say, we have land available if you're interested. So Laura's going to staff that for us. We were originally both going to go, but the airfares are incredibly expensive to Fort McMurray at $1,100, so we decided to scale it back. But she's going to be up there next month. So and that's all I have on the records report.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Falk? Very good. That is a long ways up there. That is what, about 850, 900,000 miles?
Don't scare her.
It's a long ways.
It is.
We had thought about driving it, but then, when you put math to that, it's, 18 hours of driving it.
It's even longer when you head south first.
Out of curiosity, where do you have to fly to get there?
You can actually fly into there now. We researched
From
that.
where?
Seattle,
From Seattle.
Calgary.
Yeah, and that was part of the problem, is we originally didn't think you could fly in there, you had to drive to Edmonton. Well, if you're driving 6 or 7, 8 hours, maybe 18 isn't that much worse. But,
Worse than this.
It should just be a stop on the road,
Everybody's
that's as
fine.
big as Great Falls.
You don't need to worry about it being a white. But you know these RC model aircraft that people fly? That's the size of the mosquitoes.
Right.
All right, with that, we'll move on. RSIP program, Director.
As reported last month, it's time to consider the 2013 version of the RSIP program. We have we initially thought there wasn't going to be funding for this next year's program, but the FAA called today, and it does look like there will be funding. We don't know for certain. There's a chance a grant may not come through. They are in the final days of the 2012 fiscal year. The federal fiscal year ends at the end of the month, and they don't write any grants after about the second week of September. So we're coming down to the very final part of the year. They think there'll be funding available to complete somewhere in the neighborhood of 28 homes. And as a reminder, the rest of that money, we want to update the noise contour so we have a good idea what's coming up in the future in terms of how many homes are left. As we said last month, we think it makes sense to complete one more year of the program. If we can do the 2013 program, we should complete Gore Hill, and all the homes will be remediated up there. We think, depending on the new contours, we think we would also complete the 70 DNL. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah.
Next year also. So there would be 2 fairly significant milestones in the program that will be completed in 2013 if we move the project forward. And obviously, the design process would start this fall, and we would bid the construction like we did this last year, sometime over the summer, and then construction would be in the summer, or in the latter summer to early fall of 2013. So the project is still a ways out there in construction. But that's, as we said last month, the program now is back on track. Looks like we will have funding for 2013.
So you're looking for a motion to go forward and finish this, and then I think we all received a discussion as to where the funding would come from for the 25 homes.
We did file an FAA PFC application last year. Sharon did that around the first of the year. Actually, I guess it was this year it was completed. So we have sufficient funding out there to pay for the majority of our local match, and then the rest of it would come through the airline rates. Our airline rates for this year have already been put in place with the assumption that the landing fee would pick up the residual amount that PFC doesn't pick up. So we have plenty in the local match to cover this year's program, most of it coming from PFCs and the residual coming from airline landing fees. And then we envision that we'll get $25,000 for community justice. So we're anticipating that money will be there.
Do you need this in the form of one motion or 2 motions? One motion to approve and 2 motions, and a second motion for the funding, or do you want?
I think you can all be done in one motion if the board's willing to do that.
Okay, so at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to complete the funding plan for 25 homes in phase 3 in 2013, and also for the initial study.
Right, it's all in the $2.2 million for next year, includes both the study and the completion of 25 homes.
So is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Discussion on the motion. Casey?
Well, it's no secret that I've been opposed to this ever since we found out that it was started through lies to us and deception to get our approval to enter into this program. I can see the validity of finishing this first phase and getting that 70 decibel area completed. I can see the validity of that. But reading through what you provided us here, Director, I have a lot of problem with spending passenger facility charges that we don't have yet. And we don't know if we're gonna have them, because it's been very nice that we had the increased ridership, but we don't know it's gonna continue. And I'd much rather have the bank, or the money in hand in the bank before we ever spend it. I have real heartburn with paying these costs on the airlines through our rate charge to the airlines. The whole program seems like nothing but a welfare program to me, and if I was a airline board member or owner, I would really take a second look at an airport that's making me pay for a noise program that has very dubious benefit to the airport. As far as this noise program study, we may or we may not get the C-130s. I would assume that they're a lot quieter than the F-15s. You also mentioned in here that if the study was done and all the noise mitigation was done, there would also be a possibility of F-35s coming in, which are far more noisier, and it would put us in a position to receive those aircraft. If this goes ahead, I would rather see that study done considering the F-35s rather than the C-130s. So, because that is a worst case scenario.
That's a good point, it would make sense to run two scenarios there.
Yeah, because we might as well know what the worst case scenario is
Yep.
instead of the quieter aircraft.
Yep.
Can they do that? Are they
Oh,
capable
yeah,
of doing that?
yeah, they've got the noise profiles of just about any aircraft you could name, and they could hypothetically put it on, right in the mix of airplanes, sure.
Yeah, and granted with the 727s going away, the current crop of commercial aircraft are much quieter than those were. But, like I say, I still have a real problem with this whole program. And even stemming from the fact that a lot of this, the matches our money that we are creating with passenger facility charge. The government money is tax money the government doesn't have to spend. Federal government's broke. So, I intend to vote no.
Anything else, GC? Not that didn't sum it up pretty well, but any further discussion on this?
So we are gonna have a review after this year's program?
Yeah, what we've said in the past is every year we'll look at the program year by year and would authorize it year by year. So if we vote yes on the 2.2 million today, which is the 2013 program, we wouldn't review it again. We would review the contracts at the point at which we issued contracts, but that the funding would be in place, and we would have approved that for all of next year. But then when 14 comes about this time next year, we'd be again talking about the 2014 program and whether or not we would consider moving forward.
Is there an issue if we were to amend the motion to include the F-35 in the study?
Oh, I think that's easy enough. I mean, when we do the Part 150 update, that'll just be one of the instructions you give with the contract to the consultant is, please give us F-35s and C-130s. I think JC's exactly right. The 35 is probably the loudest plane that is likely in our future. Yeah.
Any further discussion on the motion?
We've talked about this before, I guess I agree too that it's necessary for us, or it's a good idea to go through the 2013, but I've had some reservations on this program. I wasn't around when it started, but some of it doesn't ring real true to me. I think it's a good idea to finish it, and I will vote for it, but I have a lot of questions about it. It's something that we need to consider in future past 2013. But finishing it.
All right, any other discussions? I guess my thought is, I will vote in favor of this too, but I think, I have some concerns, but I think we need to finish it through 2013. I think the study will give us a much better posture in terms of where we go from that point forward. And I have a suspicion that the board will, assuming this passes, would want to really take a hard look at things at that point in time, I would think. But anyway, seeing no further discussion, I'll ask for a vote on the motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the board agenda is the U.S. Customs building modification.
I'll pass this around. I sent you a draft memo a couple weeks ago about the U.S. Customs Border Protection Facility, the one we use to process international flights. And you may recall this issue goes back nearly a year and a half when we were notified by Customs and Border Patrol that they couldn't process flights larger than 5 passengers any longer, and that was due to some facility constraints. We had quite a healthy debate, I think that's just the best way to put it, over whether or not that was the right interpretation of the rules. That culminated in a meeting up in Havre with the head of Customs Border Patrol. He was up there to talk about some of the issues related to the land crossings up there, and we were invited by Senator Tester's staff to come out and offer some testimony on our particular issue with Border Patrol. And fortunately, I think in large part because of the current issues that were underway on the land side, it garnered enough attention that CBP agreed that they would continue to process flights of up to 30 people. And in agreeing to that, they said that with reasonable accommodations that the airport authority would make to help increase the facility to that capacity. And so immediately after coming back from Havre, we were contacted by the local CBP folks, and we went over and put some chairs in one of the rooms. They moved some offices around and created a large waiting room with probably about 20 to 30 chairs in there that we provided. And so they established an area for people to sit while they're waiting to be processed. Probably rightly so. Their other concern was they didn't have enough processing space because they have one counter. So for the last year or so, they've been trying to figure out how they might stick a second counter in there. They have the staffing, they just didn't have the space. And so then their final issue, which they brought forward probably this last spring, I think it was, they said, well, we don't know where to put people once we screen them because we can't mix them with the people we haven't screened yet. And so what we came up with through those discussions is they need about 500 square feet of additional space to provide an area for people that have been screened to sit and wait while their aircraft is being processed. Because what happens is they unload everybody off the plane, they keep them in one location, they process them, their immigration paperwork, and then someone has to go out and inspect the plane and make sure it's not full of bad things, and then they allow the people back on the plane. And the piece that was missing is they had nowhere to stick people after they'd screened them. So now, through working with Dwight and all of his help, he's been a tremendous help on this project. The idea is to expand that building for another 500 square feet in order to accommodate this waiting area. And what Dwight has agreed to do is simply hold the rental rate consistent where it is today for the remainder of the building. As we said last meeting, we have to pay for that, for the building that they occupy, and they specify what they need in the way of the building, and then they provide the staffing service. We don't pay for any of the cost of staffing that facility, and then it's free to the public. That's how the business deal works. So Dwight has agreed to do this $500 or 500 square foot expansion, and the couple of considerations he's asked for is, first of all, rent increase to cover the additional space at the current rental rate, which is just about $9,000 a year that the airport would pay in order to cover that additional rent, bringing the total just about $50,000 a year we'll pay for that building. And then in addition to that, I think, and this isn't a bad idea either, Dwight's lease over time is amortized down, and he's asking for a full 10-year commitment starting from the time that the project would be complete, and then going forward for 10 years. So we leased that building and agreed to extend the lease out for a period of 10 years to help him recover the cost of the expansion. So the whole of the proposal is an increase annually of about $9,000 a year, and an agreement to extend the lease by an extra, I think it's only 2 years that we end up adding in the end. I forgot. Is it 4 years? Thank you, Dwayne. And so we'd add 4 more years to the lease in order to get the extension done. My thinking on the issue is, I agree there is not a business case here. We lose money on the operation of that building, $50,000 a year. We probably couldn't hope to get enough additional service into the community to pay for that, because every flight that comes in, if it's a big enough airplane, and the vast majority of them are, pays us a landing fee of $200 or $250, depending on what size plane it is. And that's about all the revenue aside from fuel flowage that we would get from that flight. But we think it's a significant enough benefit to the community. A couple of examples I point out are things like that Global Express we all saw sitting over there. That plane has been to Europe, since it's been here. Mr. Siebel's plane also has flown from Europe out of here. And there are benefits to having that in the community well beyond what the airport sees in the way of people buying ranches locally, investing in the community locally. Even the Google executives that come through here and they know, this great idea of having a ranch in Montana, it becomes practical when you have something like an international gateway in our community. When Bozeman opens, it'll be a pay-to-play operation down there, and it'll have a maximum capacity of just 20. So we'll still be a bigger and probably more popular destination for many of these flights. Actually, I should say when Bozeman opens now. It was when I wrote this. Now it is open. So, but nonetheless, we don't expect that to be a big change in our business. And we think that right now, given the confluence of interest that the Canadian companies and other companies have in our area with the oil drilling, with us being the closest U.S. city to both the oil fields in Minot, with the Canadians coming down, and we're actually having flights of Canadian workers coming down to work in Minot right now. They're processing here. And then Canadians coming here to look at our oil fields, and then the oil sands on the other end of it, where U.S. companies are coming back and forth from those oil sands, and us being right there, closest U.S. gateway where you can get some fuel at our cheaper cost in Canada and process your airplane. We think that confluence right now, there's enough interest there and enough investment there that now is not the right time to cut ties and cut our facility down to being able to process 5 people. So we think, I recommend strongly that we go forward with this proposal that Dwight's put together for us and expand the facility and hold our standing with the ability to process those 30 people flights.
How long is our lease? I mean, do we actually have an actual lease, or do we just keep providing it for them and they can shut the doors whenever they want?
They can try. I think, it's like anything else. I think we buy enough political leverage with this because they sort of stirred the pot. I think, just between us, I think we sort of won the day, with the fight that we had up in Havre. And they're in a position now where they've been told by the head of the agency that they'll provide services here for up to 30 people flights. I think that'll hold good for some time. And I think for at least 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, we can look back and say, no, you were told you have to do this, and we made the accommodations you asked for. And I think we may have to reignite the political fight again, and go back after it, but I think for some time we'll be able to hold the line. And I think the further we get away from the uniting of those three agencies after 9/11, I think the more communities are gonna say, you know, we need to find a more reasonable way to work with Customs and Border Patrol and all those agencies and have reasonable ways to have this in our community, because they haven't been reasonable in the past 10 years at all. And they've been very heavy-handed with airports in particular. So I think, you know, as we get more time down the road, there'll be some more flexibility that we can look at this again in the future, and hopefully the facility we're going to will have that flexibility to continue to be used in the way that we're using it. So I think honestly this is probably a 5 or 10 year solution.
All right.
You need a motion to accept that?
We do, and just before I ask for the motion, just wanted to question, we did not budget the extra dollars.
We did not. You know,
Not that it's a major amount, but.
no, we did not, and we'll have to find savings within our budget to cover this for this year, and then of course budget it for next year.
So at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to extend the lease and amend the lease for the amounts so presented in the write-up.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Is there discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion?
Get my throat to work. I think it's absolutely critical that we keep as much customs service as we can here. What's the purpose of calling ourselves an international airport if we can't service international flights? And you never know what the future is going to hold, particularly with this oil business. This could become the next big deal, and pittance that we make off this will be reflected in a big investment in the community, because people are able to cross the border and clear customs here in Great Falls. That being said, also, if we weren't spending all of our money on windows and insulation houses.
I'd just like to add, my thanks, and probably that of the entire airport authority for, Dwight, for your assistance on this. That's very helpful. Appreciate it.
Any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we have Airport Authority Board comments. Commissioner Talcott.
I have no comment.
Commissioner Swenson. Commissioner Trujillo.
Thanks for the lunch.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great. Anything else? Bill? Commissioner Cravitz.
I tried to hire a cook, I didn't get the job done.
Anything else? Mr. Robbins?
No comments.
I have none. At this time, we'd entertain any public comment. Yeah.
On your last topic on your agenda about the Customs and Border Patrol,
Then, would you just, for everybody's, just state your name and.
oh, yeah, Ben Ives, Great Falls, Montana.
Thanks.
Back when the hubbub started, when it was 2003?
Yes.
2004?
Yes.
Customs and Border Patrol actually pulled out of the building and shut down. So just to bring everybody up to speed. And that's when Dwight came into the picture and worked with the airport to build the facility. But to reiterate, they were very heavy-handed, all the way from their supervisory people all the way down. And it basically, what they said is, we will take your international airport designation away. So it is important to the community, if nothing else, in the designation. So that's all the comment I have.
Thanks, Ben. Nice to see you. Thank you. Any other public comment? Dwight?
On the Frontier Airlines, I guess my thoughts are, is when they plan to end service at the end of September, I would encourage the airport to try to put as much of a positive spin on that in the community, that this has been planned all along, this was the trial period, we're on course, all the positive things, because if we don't get ahead of that, the negative side will take precedence over that, and it'll come off as we're losing service, we're losing prices, everybody else is raising and so forth. If we can get ahead of that, I strongly encourage that.
Actually, we've been talking about that. I think that's really a good point, Dwight, and I know John's really working on that. That's one reason why we're trying to kind of get our handle around where their thinking is, so we can play off that as we end this service, because I think that's really critical going forward for next year.
The other comment I had is that I appreciate your support of the Customs Port of Entry. I ran across a news release that Fargo, North Dakota was putting together a new facility. And John reached out to the airport director over in Fargo, and he shared with John that I think it was a $1.5 million building to meet their standards today, and they were only going to be able to process how many people? 11 people,
Special
$1.5 million investment. And then, as near as I can tell, down in Bozeman, they are making upwards of an $800,000 or $900,000 investment to just clear a couple of people. So, again, I think we have this asset here at this airport, and we're shooting for the number 30, and I think that's going to be great. That will make us stand out as unique. And then as well, since we've accommodated the customs people, I'm sure that they're going to be more willing to process the aircraft. That will not cause them to have to go other cities and then lose that business here. So.
Well, thank you, Dwight. I think we do recognize that. And I think that, as I think JC said it too, it's actually key to a lot of what we're trying to accomplish here. Plus, I think our international designation will go right down the drain if we didn't do it. So, thank you again for your support on that. Appreciate it. Any other public comment? Okay, we will adjourn and reconvene, and let's make it about 6 minutes, 10 to. We've got a really busy work session, so thank you.